Okay, so today we are going to be talking about questions to ask your clients when you're working with them. Whether it's a buyer or a seller, you can gauge some of these questions and tweak them accordingly to whomever you're speaking with. Some of the questions that you can start out with depends how you meet your client. Is it a family, friend? Is it an acquaintance? Is it somebody you just met at an open house? If it's someone you just met at an open house, you're going to ask some of these opening questions. But if you know them, you might know them as, I don't know, um, Bob Smith. And it really might be you've known him as Bob your whole entire life, but maybe now in a real estate setting, his name is actually Robert. You will need to know the full names of the people that you're working with, especially because you're going to be writing contracts with them. So it's going to be important to know what their legal names are, whether they have a middle initial or not, how they sign their names legally, because when it comes to the contracts, whether you're helping them buy a property or whether you're helping them sell a property and completing the paperwork, it needs to be exact. So some of the assessment questions I always ask, and if these are people that I don't know very well or just met them at an open house, I will, and it sounds like they maybe want to list a home, I will ask them for an appointment either after the open house or during the week. If it's a couple days after the open house, then it will at least give me some time to get a bird's eye view of research done on the property, and it would allow me time to be able to see what potential property values are in the neighborhood. And I can have a conversation with them ahead of time, letting them know I need to do an assessment, and it's going to take about 15 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on some of the questions and your answers. It's going to help me determine if I'm the right person to help you sell your home, if I can sell your home, and or if it's not a good fit. So it has to work both ways, and you want to set the boundary right at the beginning. So some of the questions that I ask will be, their name. Is that your first and last name? Do you have a middle initial? Is that your nickname, etc.? Who are the actual parties that hold title to the property? So maybe I'm talking to Susie Q, but it's really Susie Q's mom's house that she's living in, but Susie Q wants to sell it and handle all the transaction. Susie Q can't actually do that if her name is not on title. So only the people whose names are on title can actually sell the property unless Susie Q is an authorized signer on behalf of her mother. If that's the case, then there would be a legal document that states that, and that would be proof of signing authority. So ideally, it's 90% of the time, it's always the people who own the home that can sell it. Sometimes if it's in a trust, their entity, the trust can sell it. Sometimes if they're debilitated or deceased, their trustees or an executor or probate attorney of that type would be the ones who are authorized to sign on behalf of the actual owner on title. So there's a few things there. So when it comes to the name, it seems like, oh, it's, Bob Smith or Susie Q. Sometimes it's not as simple as that. Asking the questions to get a little, uncovering the layers a little bit helps get you informed, but it also helps the client realize, wow, this person is asking a lot of questions I didn't even think about. That's good because not everybody knows to ask those types of questions. You want to ask what their best contact numbers are and their best contact emails. You might have a phone number for them, you might have an email for them, and or maybe you don't, but the best contact is going to be where they want to see specific information regarding their property. So if you know them from work, maybe they only want you to send them information via their home email or their home landline versus their cell phone or vice versa. So the best contact information is what you want to ask for, and that's what you want to make sure you notate down. And you also want to ask, what is the best way to communicate with them? You might have their phone and email, but would they rather text? Okay, great. Do you want me to text you daily, weekly? How often do you want to get updates from me? And one might want it every day, one might want it once a week. So be mindful of who you're talking with and what their preference is, and note that down. Another thing you need to know is, why do they want to move? Are these buyers you're working with? If these are sellers, I think I'm going to try and tailor this recording to sellers. If it's a seller, why are they considering moving? Are they downsizing? Are they investors? Are they relocating? Is there a job relocation? Are they moving closer to their kids and their grandkids across the states, down the street, up north, Southern California? Where, why, when, what time frame? What does that look like for you? Okay, great. Um, you want to know a little bit about the house. Okay, so tell me about your home. Well, I live at 123 Main Street. Great. How long have you lived there? I lived there 2 years or 20 years. Oh, okay. That's going to be a vast difference of a conversation. Somebody who's lived there 2 years pretty much knows the gist of how real estate is. Although in 2 years, we have had these great industry changes that just happened this year. So you're going to want to update them with that. The people who purchased their home 20 years ago had a very different experience purchasing their home than the ones who bought their house 2 years ago did. So you want to find out from both of those types of people, what do they recall their experience like? What was their realtor like? Are they still in communication with their realtor? Why aren't they using that realtor? What did you like about that home? How did you find your home? Was it the realtor, or did you find it, or was it a sign? Or you want to know the details of that. You want to know if that was a good experience or a bad experience. And if it was for the ones who bought the house 20 years ago, you really are going to need to baby step and hold their hands with how the process works to purchase a home today, because it's very different than it was 20 years ago. And how real estate was bought and sold 20 years ago, very different than it is today. And the ones that bought the home 2 years ago, as an example, know that it can be fast, know that there's seller markets, buyer markets. They know that they're already looking online before they've even had a conversation with you of what properties might look like, what might sell like, what they have an idea of what they think their house could sell for, because they've been online. They've been on Zillow. We all know this. Every seller has pretty much gone to Zillow to check the comps and see what the values are. And if they've done renovations, or they know that they're in a market that has a lot of turnover, and they know that some of the prices, or have gone into other open houses, they know that the house is worth a lot of money, but Zillow only says it's worth 200,000 less of what they're thinking. Okay, so we might have an overpriced mindset of a seller, or maybe it's based on facts. Maybe they have done a lot of renovations to their home. Either way, you want to get the details. You want to fact find, because that fact finding is going to help you when it's time to put pen to paper. It's going to help you know what they like, so you can do. It's going to help you know what they don't like, so you know what not to do. So you also want to find out what that communication was like. Was that experience a good experience? What do you love about your home? When you purchased your current home, what was the process you used to find it? I found it in the newspaper, said the people from 20 years ago, or I found it online, said the people from 2 years ago. So you want to know how they're searching, because that's going to be one of the ways that they're going to want you to also market their home, most likely. How did you start looking? Was it the paper? Was it a friend? Was it a realtor? Was it just online? What did you do next? Well, how long did it take to find you a home? Well, it took about 6 months, or this one says that, 20 years ago, maybe it took them 6 months to find a home. And maybe the ones from 2 years ago say, well, once we started looking online was about 3 months. And then when we went out with a realtor, it took us a month to find a house. Great. Okay. How did that process work for you? It was great. They found me the right place, or no, we had to tell them what to find. We had to tell them what to look for, etc. And then, is there anything you would like to change on this purchase? They're going to tell you what they want or don't want, and that'll be great. And you want to ask them, if you can wave a magic wand and have this purchase go just the way you want it, what does that look like for you? well, we want the best priced house in the best neighborhood and the best condition, as an example. Or, maybe the people who bought their home 20 years ago say, well, we just want to downsize and we want something low maintenance, or, it could be anything from one end of the spectrum to the other. Everything they say, write it down, because you're going to reference that, especially when you get into the nooks and crannies of a transaction. And if it starts going sideways and not the way you want it to, you might have to come back to your notes and remind them why you started this process to begin with. Okay. Is there, you want to also ask them, how many homes have they actually owned in their lifetime? The people from 20 years ago, maybe it's the one and only home, or maybe it was their third home. The people from 2 years ago, maybe they're investors, and maybe this is, their seventh home that they're buying to flip. Or maybe it's a move up buyer. They bought their townhome and now they're looking to buy a regular house. Or they bought the regular house and now they're looking to get a second home as a vacation home or investment home, or just move to a bigger home. So you want to find out how many homes that they've purchased, because that tells you if how savvy they are of a client. Meaning, are they going to be trying to run you and tell you how to do your business, or are they going to be able to intake what you're giving them as far as information, and understand what you're sharing to them? It slows down the process if they're brand new to selling their home. If it's their first sale ever, they've never gone through it. So you really need to take it down almost like a first time home buyer, where you have to take the steps slow, tell them all the steps along the way, what to expect. It's also like a first time seller, what it's going to take. They know what it's like on the flip side when they were buying the house, but now it's on the other foot and now they have to sell the house. So you have to be patient with them, explain all the details of what it's like, and that it just helps gauge their level of experience with selling houses. And on a scale of 1 to 10, would they rate themselves in terms of being prepared to purchase a home? One being not ready, or 10 being ready to buy today. And what would have to happen for you to be a 10? And that's an important question too, because they say, yep, I need to move to Florida to get to my kids or my grandkids, and I'm ready to sell now. Okay, so, but how ready are you? If you got a cash buyer tomorrow that said, leave everything, just move. Could you move within a week? Oh, well, no, I have to pack up. Or, oh no, I'm a hoarder and I have to pack up all the stuff in the house and the trailer and the sheds and whatnot. Or, well, everything's meaningful to me in this house and I can't part with any of it. It's going to take me forever to pack everything. So how ready are they to pack up and go if they got the perfect offer tomorrow? That's also going to help you with timing, because if they say, you know, and it's also going to help you with your listing time frame. You can't take a listing for more than 24 months at a time. No agent wants a listing for 24 months at a time, period. You want to get a listing and crank it out and move it out. You don't want to keep it. You want to be able to have the listing long enough to where you can market it to where it's going to make sense. If you need time to help them, you know, pack everything up, help them with, getting an estate person to come and sell off the furniture and things that they don't want or need, or give them the resources that they need to help them pack everything up to be able to move and get out of the home. You need to be that resource for them. You need to have those names and numbers available to you, but that timing is important, how ready they are. If this is their second home or they're flippers and they just have cash and they don't have anything that they need to move or anything like that, it's going to be a fast, quick sale. And you know that you're going to have to work really fast with these people. So that question just gives you an idea on the timing of how fast you're going to work, how fast they're going to work, or slow on both ends. And how, I already mentioned, how would you like to communicate? Phone calls, text, email, how frequently, daily, weekly, etc. What are the terms of the existing leases? What if you have a seller who has a tenant who is occupying the property? happens a lot. We have a lot of VRBOs around us in this area, a lot of vacation rentals, a lot of Airbnbs. People buy these houses, and now that it's not making enough money for them, or they need it to buy something else or to buy two something else is somewhere else. When it's a situation like that, and you have tenants, whether they're day tenants, 24-hour weekend tenants, vacation rental, long-term, month to month, etc., you need to know exactly how long the leases are, how long they've been there, if they've been there, you know, are they month to month? Are they fixed term? What are the actual rents? How much do they pay a month? How much do they pay a week? Or if it's a weekend, if it's a rental, kind of an Airbnb type thing, you need to know what you're dealing with tenants. That's a whole nother ball of wax. And if it's property managed, you have to work with a property manager. And that's always not, it's a roll of the dice with property managers, whether they're going to be collaborative or not. And if you have a tenant that's been a long-term tenant and there's a property management involved, you have to be patient and wait. It's up to the owner to dictate how that relationship works with a property management company, because a property management company works for that owner. So they're not very inclined to work with the owner's realtor. So it's up to the seller to determine how that's going to work out. But you do need to be in the know, and you need to have information about that. Also, with regard to security deposits, sometimes some owners will say, yeah, I had a property management company and I just fired them. Or no, I don't. So, but I want you to handle all of that. We're not property managers. We cannot take that ownership on to even handle that for the owner. The owner would need to take that. We as agents cannot be property managers. EXP won't allow that. We can't do that. You can only property manage properties if you have your broker's license and if you operate a property management company outside of EXP under a different name altogether. You cannot even have that company and EXP co-branded. You can't do any of that. It has to be 100% separate. So when a seller says, I manage it myself, I have their security deposit, you need to find out how much is that security deposit. Are you going, seller, you need to handle that eviction of the tenant. We can't do that for you. So, but you need to be at least aware of the processes involved. When there's tenants involved, showings are going to be needed to be created with the tenants, and they need to have reasonable notice before entering the property. Typically, it's 24 hours notice to show prospective buyers, but not all tenants want you to go into their houses. They might just say, no, we don't want anybody in our house. We have 30 days. You can't come in until the end of 30 days. And they have a right to do that. So it's a fine line you have to walk when it comes to homeowners and properties that have tenants, and whether they're willing to show it or not. That's a big deal. And then how cooperative are the tenants? The owners will let you know, yeah, they're great. You can come anytime or come after work or come on weekends only. You're going to need the tenant information regardless, their names, phone numbers, all the parties that are on the property. You need to know what the current rent roll is if they have one. You need to know when the potential lease termination is, and you need to know, or if the house is being sold with the tenants. Maybe it's a long-term lease. Lease ends in, December next year, 2025. Then, I'm selling the house this year and I want it sold, but the tenants remain until next year. The new buyer can purchase the home that way and can purchase it with the tenants, and then they become the housing providers for that tenant, or they can hire a property management to handle that for the tenant. So that can be done. You just need to have specific disclosures that go along with that involved. Okay, so those are some of the questions you're going to ask either on the phone or in person. It just gives you a really good baseline for what you're working with for the seller. If they say I'm at 123 Main Street, you're going to say, okay, great, I have 123 Main Street here, and we're going to meet, in person so I can actually take a look. I'm going to send you some some property values ahead of time, or comps or CMA ahead of time. And let's meet on Wednesday. So between now and Wednesday, I'll get those comps over to you. And Wednesday, I'll come over and we can talk about the marketing and then leave it at that. So some people do their listing presentations different. Actually, everybody does their listing presentations different. Some people do everything all at once and are at the house for over an hour, like 2 hours. A listing presentation shouldn't take more than 1 hour max, and that's a regular house with some acreage, some yardage, square foot lot. I'll say like half an acre to an acre. It should not take more than an hour. If you have a property with significant land, that could take more than that time frame, because you might really want to get out and walk the property with the homeowner, find out where the boundary lines are, find out the situation, get the lay of the land, you want to know all that information ahead of time. If you some of the different agents like to um they present their presentation in a way where they'll have either some books, brochures. They'll bring everything. If it's a completely blind, cold listing presentation, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'm thank you for meeting with me today after the open house. You have a lovely home. Why don't you show me around? People usually drop off their stuff on the kitchen table, or where would you like to talk is what you want to ask them. Where would you like to talk after you tour the house to me? And they might say, oh, we can chat after in the living room or in the kitchen. Okay, well, wherever that is, you put your stuff down there and you have them tour you around. As you're walking through the home with them, you already have, hopefully it's not right after an open house. But if it is, you can do a quick realist search to find out the range of value of their property. You could do a quick MLS search to find out a radius search of properties that sold and went pending and active in a quarter mile from their house, half a mile. I think you can search up to 3 miles around their property address. That'll give you a bird's eye view of market value in the neighborhood, and you can set a time frame. I don't like to go more than 3 months back. That's going to give you the most accurate for this time frame of history. The closer you get to today's date is going to be better, but I don't go further than 3 months unless there's absolutely nothing that sold. Sometimes you have to go further. And sometimes you have to go out in mileage, 3 miles, 5 miles, etc. So there's some ways to tweak that, but as you practice or as you go on listing appointments, you will get the hang of doing that even more. Some of the things you also want to consider is, well, okay, I have a bird's eye view of what the property value is. We'll just say it's between 1.4 and 1.7. And you have that in your head. That's kind of a big range, 1.4 to 1.7. That's kind of a big gap. Let's look and see what some of the houses that sold look like. There's pictures. Okay, the ones that sold at 1.7 or more were completely renovated, turnkey, brand new, nothing else to do. Everything is amazing. The ones that sold for lower have, need work. Maybe they're outdated. Maybe they have old roofs, termites, we don't know. But they're just not in the same cream puff condition as the other ones that sold for a higher price. With that being said, you're going to walk in and you're going to walk into their house. You're going to say, let's put your stuff down here. And you're going to say, take me on a tour of the home. But take me on a tour of your home, how you want buyers to come through the house. What is your favorite feature of the home? Oh, well, it's our backyard. We have this amazing pool. Great. Let's start there and work our way back into the house. We could do that. Or they say, it's our kitchen. We just renovated our kitchen and we love our kitchen. Oh, great. That's right. You mentioned that was one of the things that you liked when you bought the home. When they say things like that, of the things that they liked when they bought the home, those are going to be features you are probably going to want to market, because they're going to be looking for that. And hopefully they've kept up those things that say it's a kitchen and say it was in decent condition then, but they liked it for the space, and maybe they renovated it and updated it. So now it's an amazing kitchen for entertaining. Fantastic. Now you know exactly what you're going to market. Specifically, one of the top features of the home is going to be that amazing kitchen. So you're going to have them walk you through the home as as they want you to tour buyers through their home. So if they start out in the backyard, you start out in the backyard. If they want you to start from the kitchen, you start out in the kitchen, etc. Because everybody knows when they walk into a house, they know there's bedrooms, they know there's bathrooms, they know there's a kitchen, they know there's a front yard, backyard, maybe. There's usually a living room or a combination of sorts. And so to tour, here's the bedroom one, here's bedroom two, here's the owner's suite. You can do that, but it's also, some people can self-tour, so they can talk amongst themselves. They can start dreaming about the house themselves. But you want to go through it, asking them to show you how they want you to go as a buyer. And as you're doing that, you're taking note how they prefer you to walk through the house with clients. But also some of the things you're going to say is, ahead of time, or, hopefully it's ahead of time, you're going to say, well, I know you have a price in your head for this home. And, we have yet to talk about the marketing aspect of it, but as you're showing me the house, I want you to also walk through the house as if you're a buyer. So when I see a discolorment on the ceiling in that bathroom, I'm going to call it out to them. I'm going to say, oh, I noticed, and I'm going to say this when we're done with the tour and we sit down and we're going to go over the marketing. I'm going to say, I noticed when we walked through that bathroom, there was some discoloration on the ceiling. And then they're going to explain, oh, we had a roof leak, or, oh, yeah, I'm not sure what that is, or whatever. And you're going to say, okay, so, some of the houses that we are going to look at, some of the competition out here that sold for the higher end price points. Let's take a look at some of those photos, and we're going to look at some of those pictures, and they're going to say, oh, but that house isn't as big as ours, or that house has a smaller backyard than ours. While those items and facts are true, let's take a look at the condition of the house, because when buyers are willing to spend top dollar for a house, it's because of either the location or the fact that it's turnkey. They don't have to do anything to the house. When people start detracting money from a property, it's because one, they think it's overpriced, or two, they see themselves having to pay for things to repair or renovate in a home. So if you were the buyer and you were walking through this house and you were thinking about buying it, and you saw that house down the street for top dollar, which one would you be more inclined to pay top dollar for? That one that has nothing else that needs to be done, or this one that has that discoloration in the ceiling in the bathroom? And I didn't even get to the part of the bedrooms with the carpet that had some odor. I'm not sure, but it was very strong. And I did preview the other house that didn't smell. Would you still want to pay top dollar for this house? They start, you have to say it in a nice way, but then they will start to realize, okay, yeah, my house might need a little bit of work. So maybe not the top 1.7, maybe it's more of a 1.6. Well, maybe let's continue walking, or let's continue looking at all the other things, right? So those are some of the kind of conversations you're going to have with them. One of the things when it comes to the marketing, you have to determine what you're going to do ahead of time for marketing. Are you going to be able to offer up vendors that can help them with any of the repairs that they need? You can't do it. That's a liability. So you don't ever want to put yourself out there as the person that's going to fix the fence, change the lights, do any of this, that, or the other. You need to have a resource for them to take from. And it's always a good idea to have 3 resources for everything. If you have a lender you want to refer to them, offer them 3. If you have a painter you want to refer to them, offer them 3. Because you don't ever want to be um, put in a box as the person or the realtor that said, oh, Christina said I have to use this painter so I could list my house. Whoa, no. Here are 3 painters that I've worked with, and all of them are great from my experience. You can pick who you feel comfortable with. Get 3 quotes from each one of them, and whoever you feel comfortable with, you can go with that person. but I recommend all three of them. You can recommend all day long, but don't ever tell them who to choose because it can come back to bite you. You don't want them to ever say or blame you because if something goes wrong, you are going to be the one that they blame and they're going to say, you told me to use that painter. You told me to use that person. No, don't do that. Always offer them three people. How do you find three people? And that could be a long list. It can be. Eventually, over time, you can get to have some that are tried and true, that are your number ones that you use. Still, even if you offer them up, tell them, these are who I use. You're under no obligation to use them. Get a quote from them and find two others to get quotes from, and then you use your best judgment on who you feel most comfortable with, and always put it back on them because it has to be their decision. It's their house. It's their asset. It's just you facilitating the deal, and you're the best, you're the advisor. So you just need to advise them and give them options. It's always your job to give them options all the time. The more prepared you are with information is the best listing presentation you can have. You can put together different presentations, and my next video will be about presentations, but this one's just about the questions and the setup, and the type of conversation you're having really with them is about their why. Why are they moving? Why are they selling? What are they hoping to get into? If they want to sell this house for, all the equity and use all that equity to buy the next house cash so they don't have a bill or a mortgage, is that really going to be the best thing? Let's at least have you sit down and talk to a lender where you want to move. If you're moving to Florida, let's find you a good lender over in Florida that you can talk to, because not all lenders can lend in all the states. A lot of them can or have the ability to be able to do that, but you want to make sure that you set them up with somebody just to have the conversation. I know you're going to do cash, but I just really want to cross it off the list for sure if you're once you talk to a lender that you really truly don't want to get a loan. Because what I don't want to happen is when we're closing on this deal and then you change your mind and decide you want to keep some of that cash and live off of that cash instead, and end up getting a finance loan over there in Florida. Their lending programs are going to be a lot different. And maybe you're retired, so maybe you can't actually get a loan. So you might want to have that conversation ahead of time. I don't want you to be in that situation at the end of the transaction. I would much rather you have that conversation now and decide for a fact, yes, it's going to be cash, because in my experience, I've had clients that have said they're going to buy cash or, whatever with cash. And then in the end, they decide, the market's changed, things are different, the rates are up or the rates are down. I think I want to get financing, or at least finance for part of it and save half of my cash. It's always a conversation at the end. So instead of being in that predicament and then them blaming you because now they're frantic because now they can't find a deal with a lender, then it's going to be your fault. And you don't want that to be the case. So you make sure you let them know. I know you said you want to buy a house cash when you go to Florida, but I need to do this. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't have you turn over every stone and make sure that is the absolute option you want to take. I at least want you to know what it looks like if maybe you purchased your next home with a little bit of cash and some of a small finance, if that's a possibility for you. And if not, I totally get it. So you totally want to check all the options first. It costs them nothing to get that information. It costs them nothing to have that conversation and find out what their options are, but it could also save them so much. And because you're offering that up, that also makes you look better as their agent and reinforces why they selected you to begin with. Okay, so the next video is going to be about listing presentations. Okay, that's it for this one. Thank you. And oops, hang on, guys.